Morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning if you're watching us live on LinkedIn. Good morning if you're watching on YouTube as well. Good morning. Good morning, Dan.
Morning.
Right, it's Friday morning. Oh, we were just sort of talking about how the week's been, right? But the one thing I forgot to ask you, and please do say good morning if you're joining us live. Please do say good morning in the chat. Dan, how is the weather are you in Manchester this morning?
I am, yeah. So the weather's been great. I'm kind of over the heat, I'll be honest.
Okay.
We live not far from where a wildfire broke out, so we've had like
Really?
smoke and ash and
Oh wow.
cloud, which has been weird. Felt a bit apocalyptic, but
Gosh, yeah.
that seems to have blown over. I think the main concern with that is not being able to peg your washing out, to be honest.
Yeah, the smell of the smoke. Yeah, it's the weather is, I mean, on the one hand I sort of feel bad if you complain about the heat, right? Because it is summer at the end of the day, but
Yeah.
when it's extreme, it's a lot, right? But yeah, but it's an interesting one. I guess just in terms of how we've adapted or not, as the case may be, the lack of aircon and the outselling of anything aircon or cooling related is in itself a complete case study. But I've got with me Dan Sayers-Yates, co-chair of Prism, and I feel I should also say and co-host of the Prism Presents, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Prism Presents podcast. But you've not had that yet in your introduction.
No.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel real, actually. And you know what? The idea of filming a podcast versus actually doing it are two totally separate things.
Yeah. It's an intro. We're definitely going to get into the podcast. For anybody that doesn't know, the Prism, which is the LGBTQ plus network for the co-op, has recently launched a podcast, which I did actually listen to your first episode. I don't know whether you've just got the one episode out at the moment or whether you've done another one. Just the one episode, which I'm assuming is available on all streaming platforms. It's also on YouTube as well, so that's interesting. But we're going to be getting into today because we're a couple of weeks now post Pride, and we're going to be getting into what happens after Pride, right? Because there's a lot of activity, and even for networks in particular, actually, a lot of activity and a lot of budget. Let's not forget as well, associated with Pride Month. But what happens after that? That is what we're going to be getting into today. So I have got the amazing Dan Sayers-Yates. We're going viral, baby. Is that like your strapline? You and Nat. Nat is the co-host of Prism Presents and co-chair of the Prism Network as well. Is that your strapline? Is that?
Do you know what? I think we need to just get a bit of a reality check.
No. Be ambitious. We're going viral, baby. I love it.
Love it. Right, I will say, right. So through our the typical activities that we run in the network, which are usually virtual events, right?
Yeah.
We hit a wall at like 60 people, and no matter what we do to try and overcome that, we've always struggled to reach more people.
Like you've hit a ceiling.
With the podcast, our engagement has like grown exponentially. So we're at like 600 views already.
Oh my gosh.
Which is obviously 10 times more than 60. And we're like, I think we found it. We've cracked this now. This is it. This is the future.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we could do a whole episode literally just on talking about the popularity of podcasts, which really is definitely a thing. People prefer to listen for whatever reason. Maybe, they can multitask and all of those kinds of things. But yeah, listening or even just, even before we came live on this, I've got a podcast that I often listen to that I had on YouTube. I'm sort of pottering about putting that on, listening to it. So do you know what? I had a conversation, I want to say yesterday with an ERG lead asking about driving engagement. So the podcast clearly has worked for you guys in terms of increasing engagement levels. That's amazing. That is fantastic. Right. So we're going to get into that. I'm going to, before we get into all of the questions that we've got, and if you have got any questions or any comments for Dan and Nat, assuming Nat's going to say in the comments as well in the chat, we can pick those up. So there is a tradition on here. In fact, Dan, because you've been on here before, so I'm going to read out your bio, which has been written by Claude today, and you get to score it out of 10. So today I'm joined by Dan Sayers-Yates, change lead and co-chair of Prism, the LGBTQ plus network at the Co-op. Dan brings strong project, people and stakeholder management skills to network leadership, along with an APM project management qualification. Under his leadership, Prism has become known for connecting ideas and people, including through their new podcast, Prism Presents, which links colleagues across the wider business. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you. Yeah, that probably hits the nail on the head, I would say.
Yeah. And the whole change thing as well. How long have you been in the world of change and change management? So this is your day job. How long have you been in that space, like change and project management? Because it is a very common skill set for ERG Co-Chairs, is it not?
Yeah. So I think it's been about 4.5 years now.
Okay.
But I was a project manager before that. So that was a couple of years. But basically, I became a project manager, and it's a very it focuses on the process side of change, whereas I'm interested in people, which is where change management come in, because it's a very people-centered discipline, right? And it's all about the hearts and minds of change, which actually, if you don't tap into it's a bit futile. Like your efforts to deliver change are redundant because people just don't adopt the changes that you're trying to deliver, right? So that's what got me into it. And I've always been interested in people's behavior. I'm interested in my own behavior and why I do things. There's always a reason people do the things they do. And so like, I probably like set the scene a few years ago without realizing where I did psychology at uni. And then I think I didn't think I realized it back then, but I clearly had this interest in people, which has actually translated into my professional life.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting that you talk about like being a project manager before, and then going into the change management side. And I guess if we were being sort of very kind of like one is hard and one is soft, you might sort of say, okay, the project management thing is maybe like about the hard things of maybe like a process or a system or whatever it be. And then the change management bit is the people one, which is potentially like the softer. But actually, we know that that's the harder, right? The one of getting people to change their behaviors and what they do is actually the harder bit of change, right?
Extremely hard, because people don't like change and people resist. So we need to acknowledge that and recognize it. And actually, that is the thing that probably needs to take the biggest focus when you're delivering a project.
Absolutely. And and in terms of what networks are trying to do, it often is to bring about change from like a grassroots level. Incredible. And it is, as I say, it's really common skill set. In fact, so we've got Junior Beeman in the comments. Good morning, Junior Beeman. Good morning, friends. I am back. Junior is back from across the pond. He's put a Canadian flag there. Junior has been in Canada on the West Coast, I think, if I get my geography right. And Junior, I want to say, I might be getting this wrong, but I think you spent some time in the project space as well, I want to say. Maybe, I'm sure I saw something about Agile or Scrum leader or something like that in Junior's profile. But definitely, it's very common. I see this especially in good ERG leaders. I often see a little bit of either projects or change or, sort of strategic thinking or something.
I think it's either I'm motivated by people. So obviously that talks to both my change lead role and the network role. I'm also a control freak, and I will own that, which then I think talks to the project management side, because ultimately you have to be a bit of a control freak, right? You have to be able to spin a lot of plates, get people to do things that they don't necessarily want to do.
Yeah.
And that obviously translates into a network role as well, where you're basically doing the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things I say as well that as to why I think it's similar to running a network is nobody works for you, right? The individuals that get involved in the committee or whatever, nobody technically works for you. So you don't really have that positional power. You don't really have many resources. You're kind of trying to like beg, borrow and steal and cajole people into doing things, etc. Junior Beam, I was a scrum master. Please don't dig up my trauma. Because I feel like we need to do a whole episode on the trauma of running projects. But interesting, are there any other lessons that you think, or any other things around your change management skills that are useful in your role as a co-chair?
So change management, right, is all about adoption. So it's getting people to adopt a new process, a new system, a new behavior, a new mindset. And I think that's a lot of what Prism does, right? So we either share real life stories to try and tap into people's emotions, or we'll share educational info to sort of enhance their knowledge of a topic. And the purpose of doing that is to try and encourage them to challenge their own beliefs and attitudes, and get them to shift into a more desired state that's a bit more open and understanding. So I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, change leads do tend to be great at communication as well, which I think is an absolute fundamental skill when you're involved in a network, because obviously you meet a lot of people and you produce a lot of outputs that need to sort of get the point across in a way that resonates with the audience. I think they're the two main things.
Yeah, and knowing how to, even like in terms of the communication, knowing how to like flex it for different audiences. Is really important.
Yeah, I mean, God, I could go to the ends of the earth and talk about change management.
Same. I'm down in that rabbit hole with you, but flexing it for different audiences and based on what you need them to do, as you were saying, is it a piece of information because somebody needs to learn something, or they need to change a behavior, or they need to do something different? And a good change management plan looks at that, doesn't it? What is it that you're trying to get this group to do?
And resistance. So resistance is so important to understand how to proactively plan for and try and overcome, because again, people grow up, they shape their beliefs and attitudes around their experiences. Some of them don't necessarily align with the things that the network are trying to do, or the reason why the network exists in the first place. And so being a change lead and having to deal with resistance when delivering like a system, the same principle applies, right? So when I'm trying to change people's mindsets and get them to really challenge what they believe to be the right way of thinking, you could naturally come up with against resistance.
Absolutely.
And so being able to prepare for that is a good skill that change management prepares you for.
Yeah, definitely. Wow, gosh, I feel as though I need to like do another episode that's just about how change management relates to ERGs. Maybe we'll do that.
I'd go for
that. Let's talk about then planning beyond Pride. So obviously you've just come through Pride. Really quickly, what were some of the standout things you did during Pride? And then we'll just get on to how that fits into your overall plans for the year, which it's more than just the Pride month.
So I think the standout achievement for us was we did a collaborative event with two of our suppliers, Premier Foods and Dentsu, and it was a virtual event. It was across all three organisations. We had our sponsor attend and sit on the fireside chat and share her perspective as an ally. and she's a very senior person in Co-op, and she came across amazingly well. I think we had about 100 and something people there. It was great. It was great working with the other networks.
Yeah.
To be honest, that was the bit I enjoyed the most. But and I think it's definitely like sparked a desire to want to do more things with these suppliers and other suppliers in future, because I think just the reach is beyond what we can do just internally.
Yeah. I like that. I mean, I love a collaboration anyway, but also reaching into suppliers. It ticks a lot of boxes actually, but it also it brings a little bit of commercial focus. Not that you're necessarily talking business, but it just helps develop relationships between the different organizations. So therefore, for some of the naysayers looking on, do you know what I mean? It also actually sort of ties it to business purpose.
And I might talk about this in a bit, but I'm very big on trying to quantify the value of a network. And actually, Premier Foods is a great example. So we worked on the Pride Month event, and actually through that work, we are also collaborating on them with our Pride activity as well. So London, Manchester, and Brighton, we will be running in-store activations, which are basically a big party in our food stores. And we had London 2 weeks ago, and it went very, very well.
Amazing. Yeah. And that's in collaboration with a key supplier. I love that. Absolutely love that. And then just talk about when you're looking at the plan for the whole year, how you sort of, I guess, make sure that you've got things that go beyond just like key moments like Pride.
Yeah. I mean, obviously Pride is our staple, right? Always has been, always will be. So at the end of every year, me and Nat will get the steering committee together for a full day, and we'll review successes, we'll reflect on lessons learned, and we'll essentially plan for the year ahead, right? So the way Prism is set up, so we've got 5 different squads, and they all look after certain things within the network. As an example, we've got a comms engagement squad, we've got a development squad, we've got a data and insight squad, and they're led by a squad lead. And we'll basically get a whiteboard, we'll review all the lessons learned, successes and stuff, and then we'll think about what we want to achieve in the coming year that either is a staple thing like Pride Month, it's an objective within our broader business's social mobility, inclusion and belonging strategy. It's things that our LGBTQ plus colleagues have told us they want from us, or it just relates to something external that is almost like a legislative thing, like the HRC work. So once we've kind of chucked everything on a board, we will then prioritize it using Moscow, and then kind of sequence things. And once we're all aligned on that, we'll then take our sponsor through it for their input and essentially approval on the plan, and then we'll just get cracking with it.
Nice. So you have like a whole planning day. I love that. I love that as a person. I love those sorts of days. Like I used to love doing that kind of thing, when you're working up a plan and sort of prioritizing and the sequencing and stuff like that. And interesting about where, the different buckets of activity that you have, and then your prioritization. So you talked about Moscow, like as a framework. I obviously have like a matrix, which I can't remember if I shared that with you guys when I was in Co-op. So there are these different ways of prioritizing, which I always think it's so important to get everybody involved in the prioritization conversation, so that everybody's clear what's been done and why, and the things that maybe aren't done, again, that everybody goes through a conversation as to why we're not doing that thing, right? And then do you get your exec sponsor involved in the planning, or you just take them through it afterwards?
We'll take them through it afterwards. The beauty we've got with our new sponsor is, so she's our commercial director, she's our operations director, so she has all of our food stores under her, and she which is a massive population within Co-op. They make up the majority of our colleague population, of which we've got like 55,000 colleagues, right? And so she can input into our plans and make them more workable for the colleagues that are probably harder to reach.
Yeah.
We've not done that yet because she only became sponsor at the start of the year, but I'm really looking forward to having that this year.
Yeah. And I love that for so many reasons. And just what you said there. So she has got a very operational role, and she is able to think about how to translate what you're doing as a network and how it will connect into operational colleagues, because we know this often is a challenge actually for networks. How do we connect to, as I sort of sometimes call it, non-desk based colleagues and employees? So that'll be interesting. And it's definitely something I would encourage, whether it's somebody that is operational or commercial, or they have like a customer connection. Somehow you've got to get to the sponsors that are kind of like at the sort of slightly sharper end, if that makes sense. If that's if that's a gap that you've currently got. And also, do you look to your sponsor to bring a level of almost like that alignment with like business objectives or strategic insight or that kind of thing? How does that work?
I think in an ideal world we would. But we are mainly driven by our social mobility, inclusion and belonging strategy, which is designed by our social mobility, inclusion and belonging team.
Yeah.
And to be fair, everything we do is interconnected, right? So Kate, who's our sponsor, she'll have elements of that in her own objectives, and we'll obviously work to that in a way. But we will 100% be like, Kate, here's our plan. This is where we need you. This is where we need you to unlock something for us. And actually, how does this fit within our operational colleagues and on those on the front line? Because, and this is the reason we did the podcast as well, because not everything we do is accessible to everybody.
Yeah.
And especially frontline colleagues who are the largest population within Co-op. Like, how do we reach them? And it has to be in ways that are accessible at their fingertips at any time, any place. But yeah, she might guide us because she might be privy to stuff that we just don't know about yet. But we've not really had that conversation yet.
Yeah. Tell me about the podcast, because I don't, honestly, I listened to it. It was so interesting. It was really interesting. It's really good. Honestly, really good job, like, to you and Nat, for sure.
Thank you.
So the podcast is called Prism Presents. It's interesting because when you first mentioned that you're going to be doing a podcast, I wasn't sure whether it was going to be only an internal thing, as in like only available on, like, say, on your intranet or on your SharePoint or Viva Engage or whatever. But actually, it's external, right? So anybody can go and find this podcast called Prism Presents.
Yeah.
Where did the name come from? First of all, just tell me about that.
Oh God, where did the name come from? I don't think it came from anywhere. I think we just liked the alliteration of Prism Presents.
The Prism Presents podcast. The three Ps.
Yeah, the 3 Ps. Yeah. So we even we got special treatment. So we even got our own logo made up for it, which was nice. So, like I said, we wanted to come up with more accessible ways for colleagues to connect with us. The original intention wasn't to make it external.
Right.
So I think what happened was we noticed that we were getting quite a high viewership internally, and we thought, actually, what would happen if we made this external? And because we were like having conversations with suppliers as part of the Pride Month activity, and actually I was having a conversation with suppliers as part of sort of getting ready for the code of practice. And we all just talk about like things that we're doing and barriers and whatnot. And I thought, do you know what? We've done a podcast and it's landed really well. And I'm going to share it with you. so that you can see some of the stuff that we're doing.
Yeah.
And that's how it started. And then we thought, actually, if we're going to share it with suppliers, shall we just share it broadly? We did obviously have to get approval and stuff, but yeah, it's external. That will happen. We did get the green light last week, I think it was, for more episodes. So we're going to be filming the next one in a few weeks. We will be looking at the time, because I think half an hour is quite a long time to.
No,
do you not think?
No. I mean, but I love you know, I watch and listen to like Diary of a CEO, and you know, I'm used to like these like nearly 2-hour marathons, right?
So when we looked at the data, right, Cheryl, we found that people tend to drop off at the 10-minute mark. So not only does that mean people are lying to me when they say they've watched it, but it also means that actually that's probably the sweet spot of when we probably need to aim towards when we're recording future episodes. And when I look at the podcast, the first episode, I do think there are opportunities for us to sort of make it more concise. So I'm not worried about that. But again, we're just going to kind of tinker with it as we go along, because we don't know what will work and what won't work. And you know, it might be that actually 10 minutes is way too short and people want a bit more, so we'll kind of like adapt as we go along.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's I think it's brilliant. And you know, you mentioned about getting the green light. Did it take a lot to get approval for it to be external?
I don't think it did. I think the biggest concern was, were we talking about co-op in a way that you know, doesn't represent co-op? And actually we didn't actually mention co-op much. It was all me and Nat talking about ourselves. So it didn't really it wasn't an issue. Do you know one thing I will say about the podcast as well is so people see mine and Nat's name fly around the business, right? Obviously with the network stuff that we do, but they haven't put a face to a name. So it was a good way of people putting a face to our names and actually learning a bit more about the people who represent their voice across the wider business. And that was another reason why we did it, because we felt, me and Nat, kind of like, we don't live in the shadows, but I think it's just nice when people can, you know, see who see who represents them.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And you know, even the fact that you got permission for it to go external, I think is very interesting. I can imagine a lot of organizations being unnecessarily scared about a podcast like that going out. And actually, for some reason, what's stuck in my brain at the moment, I don't know whether you've ever seen the Netflix show, is it called Selling Manhattan or no, Owning Manhattan, Buying Manhattan? I can't remember. Ryan Serhant, he's a real estate firm. But in the first series, he's got a couple of members of staff that do a podcast, and it goes horribly wrong because they're all like slagging off members of staff and everything. It's really bad. And that did actually go external. Like, so just make sure that you're not doing that. It doesn't become like.
I think it's funny because we got there, and I was like, "Oh, it'll be fine. Like we've got these segments that we're going to talk about, right? And we'll film one. Okay. And if it goes wrong, we'll just refilm it."
Okay.
And we got there, and the producers were like, "No, it's just one continuous take." I was like, I'm not prepared for that. Like what? Like what if I swear? What if I say something I shouldn't? I'll have to start all over again. And luckily I didn't. I think at one point Nat did nearly say a swear word and then corrected herself. But it's something to laugh at. But yeah, we're very mindful. There's a lot to think about as well. You're like camera.
Yeah.
Links to this segment, and then you're thinking of the time, and then you can see the producer in the background tapping the watch and stuff, and you're like, ugh.
And what's the feedback been like internally? So I know you use Viva Engage. I don't know whether that's where you've generally been getting feedback or whether you've been getting it, you know, in like the comments on the different platforms or whatever. But what has the feedback been like internally?
Really, really positive. I think people like the tone in which we talk about things. So it's not, it's not this polished, like, professional.
It's not glossy.
Yeah, it's like two people talking normally about things that have happened in their life and things that are happening right now. And that's the biggest thing people have fed back on is the way we talk about things is really engaging, which actually was one of the sort of objectives I wanted to achieve through it. Is I just want to talk to people as if they're regular people, that and we'll talk about things that might be a bit uncomfortable, but do you know what? That's the reality of the world we're in.
That is absolutely fantastic. Honestly, it's I would definitely encourage anybody that's watching this, if you've been thinking about a podcast, because I know it's something that sometimes some networks are like, ways of connecting out to sort of wider colleagues, etc. We should maybe try doing a podcast, but it doesn't go anywhere. And I know you sort of talked about the production effort that it takes, but it's definitely worth it. I think if it's something you're thinking about doing, I would definitely give it a go. And that's what I heard. I think it helps that we're friends as well as colleagues. Yeah, you can see that actually, that definitely comes through. It looks, for me as somebody that's watching, it looks very, very natural. That's the one thing I would say. It just comes across as just two friends having a chat. Which is
that's
great.
Good. That's good.
Yeah, perfect. Let's just talk about allies and engagement and support. Beyond Pride, because I think what's interesting, and I always find it fascinating sometimes actually watching allies posting about their involvement with Pride Month, but then everything goes very quiet sort of afterwards in terms of support from allies. So again, how do you keep allies involved in what the network is doing beyond Pride Month? What kind of things have worked for you in the past?
Yeah, really, really great question. So outside of Pride Month, we like working with our other colleague networks at Co-op, right? So as an example, we in September we're going to be doing an event with our Parents and Carers Network for LGBTQ plus Parents and Carers Day, which I think is on the 19th of September. Nice. So not only does this promote intersectionality, but it extends our reach to an audience that we don't typically engage. Last year, Prism led the way on a series of Allies in Action workshops, which was a big campaign. We delivered 15 sessions that essentially equipped leaders with skills they need to be great allies. We had over 220 leaders attend it.
Wow.
And I was dead keen on this being a cross-network collaboration. So actually I had the chairs of the other networks help facilitate the sessions. And actually at the time as well, I had our CEO film an intro video that we dropped into the session content, and she kindly encouraged her team to attend, as well as their direct reports, which I think led to the sort of 220. That was phase one. Because it was so successful, we are going to look at phase two, but we were just going to wait for the sort of the HRC code of practice to come into effect, because actually from my point of view, allyship is our biggest weapon against sort of hate and division, which I think we may see a lot more of now that sort of the sentiment behind the code of practice is starting to become more normalized.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We'll get into that. We'll talk about that momentarily. I wanted to come on to just something that you said there, and I know you sort of like just slipped it in, but that thing of you talked about getting a video done from your former CEO, just a little short. I'm assuming that was just a little iPhone video or something, or was it a professional
No,
video?
it was, well, she'd done it on Teams on her laptop and then sent it in. Yeah.
A little video, a little informal video, maybe with a little bit of a brief of this is what we're doing. Can you just film a little clip saying that you're in support? You know, things like that go a long way to getting buy-in from other people, right?
Yeah, Shireen was our biggest advocate. And actually, I didn't even need to send her a brief. She was like, leave it with me, I'll sort it.
Amazing.
She did it. It was amazing. She was an incredible leader, and me and Nat both miss her a lot.
Yeah, it's that's phenomenal. And being able to like harness, when you have got people like that at the top of organizations, being able to harness that support with something as simple as like they literally record a little video for you that you can use like to create support is incredibly important. Let's just pause a little bit. I say pause, but let's talk about EHRC, because this is very real, right, for a lot of networks and for the community. And I know you've done an incredible amount of work in terms of leading up to this. So it's almost like a commercial break here, just in terms of, because I know even just to get to this point, Dan, of the date. What's the date? Is it the 5th of August? I want to say 5th of August. Just talk briefly about some of the things that you've done to get here in terms of the EHRC code of practice, and maybe some of the things that have worked really well, and some of the things that maybe didn't work as well that you've learned from.
Yeah, so I mean, as soon as the Supreme Court ruling came down, Shireen wanted to mobilise a working group of people from across the business. So we've been in place, well over a year now. It was a big priority to make sure it was people led. So we were straight out the gate, like, what we're going to do about it, because obviously at that time there was so much ambiguity. We had no dates. This was unprecedented, right? How was anyone going to respond to this? And so we set up a working group. Me and Nat also established a monthly listening session with our trans, non-binary and intersex colleagues, which is actually still running now. We took an audit of our entire portfolio to understand actually, under the guiding principle that, don't wait for this to come into effect. We did an audit to see what provisions we have. Actually, we're in a pretty good place anyway. And where we're not, we're going to put in remediation work to sort that out as quickly as we can. Obviously, we want to preserve the dignity and the safety of everyone. So it's important that whilst we do that, we obviously protect colleagues, and that's all colleagues, right? And I created a line manager guide that is actually to support line managers in helping any trans colleague throughout their career at co-op. So from recruitment all the way through to like them coming out, disclosing their transition, actually, their progression, because whilst a great manager will create a very safe environment, what the flip side of that is that the trans person might actually feel too safe and never want to venture out for fear of that not being replicated beyond that environment. And so progression is a really I wanted to make sure that progression was in there, and actually that links to another initiative we did, or we're actually doing at the minute, which is a leadership development program for LGBTQ plus people. And so we did the guide. What else did we do? I can't remember. There was a lot of stuff. But the main ones were the guide, the audit, and the listening groups that we set up.
I tell you what I like about the audit in particular as well, not just because I used to be an auditor, but the audit for me, and this links to I think as well, like how people go through change and how people go through the change curve and all of that, because a lot of what is quite frightening about change, and especially something like this, actually, the EHRC code of practice and all that, is ambiguity and uncertainty about what it means and what the future means. And so something like an audit of the provisions that starts to put some certainty around, you know, the size of the challenge, what options we've got, what we need to do, etc., and all of that sort of thing. So, you know, if any organization hasn't done that sort of thing and is still maybe in this state of you know, sort of almost like paralysis or not sure, and you know, because of the confusion, a lot of organizations have just been in a sort of like, well, let's wait and see and do nothing. And I kind of understand that to a point. But even just something like doing the audit is really useful. You know, at least people will see that, okay, actually something is being done. We're trying to clarify where we are, etc. So that, you know, sort of like really stands out for me.
Yeah. I have never in my life talked so much about toilets.
Yes.
Not the most interesting subject.
You'd think it was, wouldn't you? It's crazy. It is crazy. Yeah. It's but you know, but I'd imagine actually as a network, this is probably similar for a lot of LGBTQ networks. Would you say that it's actually taken up how much as a percentage, if you were to sort of say what percentage of your activity and efforts have been taken up, you know, in the past year or so by the EHRC? So is it quite a lot? Is it quite significant?
Yeah, I'd probably say 50% of my time in the network is taken up by this. And that, you know, that's through attending working groups, attending ad hoc calls, pulling the guides together, feeding into comms and stuff. Because obviously we want to get it right, and that's it's worth it, because actually we understand the implications of this on people, and we really need to get this right. So much effort has been poured into this, and it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Brilliant. In terms of, if you were to point to one thing that's been the most impactful for you as a network,
I would actually say the listening sessions that we set up off the back of the HRC code of practice. And the reason I say that, right, is because so first of all, there's not a high uptake in attendance, but I don't feel like this particular session is meant to achieve that. I actually think it's more about showing up for those that are vulnerable, and it doesn't matter how many people that is. It's being there when people need you to be. And you know, we get the same colleagues turning up on a monthly basis, but they share things that they wouldn't typically share, right? And that means more to me, because it means that they trust me in that. It means that they feel safe, and actually it's nice to see them share similar experiences, because it helps them not feel as alone as they might feel otherwise. And actually that means so much more to me than, you know, running an event that has 1,000 people, or I don't know, generating some income from something. That I would say is our biggest achievement.
Yeah, I love that. And it's really, you know, it really goes back to the foundations really of what these networks are about, is being there for individuals, you know, so that they don't feel alone when they go, especially when they're going through like these challenging times. That's really interesting. And it's so simple to do as well. It doesn't cost anything, right? Apart from a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Good morning, Leanne. Let me just clock Leanne's comment here. Interesting point about creating progression. There's research that supports your point that people stay put due to safety. See career in action. What you're doing is a great example of what needs to happen to support people for whom a safe culture is a stronger need than usual. Yeah, I really love that. The point about career progression there, Leanne, I completely echo that. And also, when you said about the development program as well, I don't know that many LGBTQ plus networks that are doing development programs for leaders, but we do know that progression, especially into very senior ranks, is a challenge within this community.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting and tying into what Leanne was saying as well about staying put due to safety.
So it almost talks to change management in a way, right? Because our primitive instinct is to survive. And we're only going to do that if we feel safe, right?
Yeah.
So and that can mean many things to many different people. But again, the flip side of it is by protecting yourself, you're almost not giving yourself opportunities that other people would have. And you know, you've shaped your behavior around experiences which for trans people are often negative. And so whilst I understand why you would do that, you're almost not giving yourself, you're doing yourself a disservice by protecting yourself so much, because you're letting opportunities pass you by. So this is why we did the listening session, and actually the development program. You are absolutely bang on, Cheryl. So our diversity data at Co-op shows that as you go up the work levels, the representation drops. And so the whole point of the program is to give colleagues the skills needed to progress in their career in a safe way. We worked with a company called We Create Space to design the program, and they're actually delivering it at the minute with the cohort.
Yeah. And, and linking to the thing about the safety as well, and the safety culture, we know that, well, certainly research around, for example, emotional and mental well-being for the LGBTQ plus community is a challenge actually in the workplace. And so that fear of, as you were sort of saying, if I get that promotion or I move into a new area where I've got a new manager, is it going to feel safe, or actually is my mental well-being going to be at risk now? Potentially again, if I've gone through a journey to get to a good place with this one, am I going to have to go through that again? And all of that, and not even necessarily just with the manager, with the team and with your peers and colleagues and all of that.
Exactly.
I completely understand why sort of like people sort of stay put rather than going for that promotion. And then unfortunately, as you're saying, Dan, then because sometimes we're encouraged to go for that promotion because we see others doing it, but then when we don't see others doing it, then we think that it is going to be it's kind of a sort of vicious cycle, right?
100%.
We're nearly at the end. We're gonna wrap some things. We're gonna wrap up with one piece of advice that Dan has got for anybody. But have there been any specific challenges or anything that maybe didn't go as well that you thought, oh gosh, that's going to be amazing, and then you gave it a go and it didn't really maybe give you the return that you were expecting?
Do you know what my biggest challenge is throughout all this is to trying to stay pragmatic. So I've got a bit of a complex where I want to defend those that are in need, and I've got this really strong desire for justice if I see unfairness, and I've really got to try and keep a level head and pick my battles carefully, which is easier said than done. But being a network lead, you really have to be objective, and you have to base decisions that can be quite emotional. You have to base it on data and facts, to almost like remove that emotion. So I've been on a journey where I'm having to think more pragmatically than I normally would, because, and you know what, I've grown up. I've had horrible experiences when I was a child. I was bullied quite mercilessly in school, which I think is where this need has come from, to protect others that I think are in that position that I used to be in. And being in a leadership role, you've got a platform to be able to do that. And so I'd say that was my challenge. That was my biggest challenge. Everything else, I would say has probably landed there or thereabouts where I expected it to be.
Yeah, it's really interesting what you described there, because that that sense of wanting to like not see people sort of suffer harm, and you know, that sort of caring, empathetic side, I think is quite common in network leads, but certainly some more than others, and certainly based on personal experience, if that's what you've gone through, that almost like becomes then the overriding sort of like factor on everything, like the lens that you see everything through. But as you say, you know, you've still got to be quite a savvy operator to be able to get things done and to manage your time and your energy and all of that sort of thing. And it is difficult, like knowing how to read the room and knowing that you can't fight absolutely every battle that kind of comes across your desk is tricky.
Yeah, it is tricky. I have had feedback a few months ago that I'm coming across a bit like I'm at war with the world. And I think it's because I just take on everyone's stuff and I want to do something about it. Because when someone tells me something, I'm like, right, what can I do with this information?
Yeah.
But then I need to take stock of my own sort of well-being and think, actually, I can only take on so much of everybody else's stuff because I've got my own stuff going on, which is why I'm trying to be more pragmatic and objective and pick and choose the things I kind of fight for.
Yeah, it's a, you know, somebody saying you're at war with the world, but the world is a crazy place at the moment. Like it's absolutely bonkers. The thing, in fact, I was going to say to you just before we came on, actually, which you all know about this, right? The circle of influence. The circle of influence. When I was on a big transformation program at a retailer, one of your competitors, actually, who shall remain nameless today. Massive program, and there was a lot that was wrong, you know, in the organ, and there was a lot that needed fixing, and it was so easy to become overwhelmed with the scale of the change that needed doing. And my favorite saying was circle of control. I was just like, I've just got to focus on, because if you try to sort of like fix or fight everything, like you will absolutely burn out for sure. So it's something I used to kind of like live by, just to kind of keep sane, basically. One piece of advice from you, Dan, for co-chairs and or organizations you know, around this agenda.
So I think EDI is getting a bad rap at the moment. So whether that's organizations rolling back on the policies, I think the value of it is being questioned. My advice is, wherever you can, try and substantiate what value the work that you do generates. So whether that's through, you know, quantitative data or qualitative, and actually if you can link that data to wider business goals, I think it just amplifies the value that you bring. Just as an example for us, so I mentioned before about us delivering Pride activations, and actually I'm using that as an opportunity to measure the impact that this has on store turnover. And actually, and also I'm gathering sentiment from customers on how important things like that are to them, and how likely it would be to encourage them to, I guess, shop more with us. Because if I can evidence that, it's quantifying the value that the network brings, and actually it gives us a bit more clout when we go and ask for stuff. We can evidence what value we bring, and it doesn't always have to be social value. Like, think really hard about how you can generate value from a commercial perspective or any other perspective, and make an effort to really like focus on value, because in this current climate, that's all anyone cares about.
I'm so pleased that you've said this, Dan, because I feel like a broken record at the moment. I genuinely do. Honestly, I'm like people like read the memo. Like the memo at the moment is, and the term I've started using actually this week, because when it comes to, like, obviously we had the summit and we had the network there from Co-op explaining, about a particular initiative. And the bar that I set for these case studies, it had to be case studies that had brought a benefit to colleagues, customers or clients, and the wider community. Because I was like, I want to see evidence of indisputable value, as in, if I were to speak to anybody from the CEO to whoever in the organization, they would say that thing that network did was good for this organization. Like, that's the bar at the moment.
Yeah.
Like, you need to be really thinking quite creatively about how does this thing benefit the organization.
Yeah, because and you mentioned it earlier, like, I think EDI is seen as soft or intangible. And you know what people are like, if they can't see it or feel it, it doesn't exist. And so it's our job as network leads or people involved in networks to try and substantiate it through empirical ways to actually help people see what value you actually bring.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Couldn't have said it better myself. And we're going to leave it there, Dan. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm sure it sparked so many other thoughts in my brain of other conversations that I need to get on here. Not least the relevance of change management expertise in the world of networks, and what it means to like getting things done and changing behaviors and all of that, dealing with resistance, planning for it. I loved that. Dan, where can people listen to Prism Presents? Are you on all sort of podcasting
I would
platforms?
Say add me on LinkedIn. There's a post somewhere along my feed where I've shared it, or you could drop me a message and I'll happily send it to you directly. You might find it a bit hard to locate yourselves because it's saved on a particular channel, and I think it might be a bit elusive to try and find. So I'd say reach out to me or look at my feed and find it there.
Perfect. Yeah. And your network as well. Your network's got your own social media profile as well, I want to say. Have you or not?
Yep.
Yeah. On LinkedIn, on Instagram as well?
Instagram, not yet. I think LinkedIn is our key platform that we use. So I'd say if you want to connect with that, feel free. We are on Facebook, but we do kind of lock that down just for colleagues.
Okay.
But yeah, LinkedIn.
Perfect. So please do check out the Prism Presents podcast, where you hear Dan and co-chair Nat. And lovely comment to finish with here from Leanne. Thank you for a thought-provoking session, and to the co-op for recognizing companies need a role like this. Please tag me, Cheryl, and I will repost. Dan, I stay with the co-op for banking and food because of their commitment to community work and support of EDI for employees. Dan, you can screenshot that and take it back.
I'll send it now to see you. Thank you, Leanne.
Thank you so much, Dan, and for everybody that's joined us live this morning. Thank you. And if you're watching this on the replay, thank you for taking 57 minutes out of your day to be with us. Hope you got something really useful from it. Thanks again, Dan.